Okay. Good. Hello and welcome. Good evening from India and good morning in America. This is you are watching a very special show, and this is the purpose and objective and mission of the Policy Times. When we started off the Policy Times, our agenda was that how do we facilitate trade and investment and policy advocacy, of course, as the backbone of it, and which becomes the engine for national growth. And I think I cannot be more happy to have two eminent personalities who would share on the fact that a lot of news you are hearing that due to this corona or COVID crisis, there is an anti-China sentiment across the world. And this anti-China sentiment brings equal opportunity to a lot of things. Just like the COVID-19 has also benefited or brought some opportunities, this anti-China sentiment due to COVID crisis seems to be a blessing on the trade and investment front between India and China. And today, I'm really honored to share that we have two eminent experts, Mr. Sanjay Puri, who is the chairman of US Impact and CEO and president of the Alliance of US India Business and chairman and founder of Auto Nebula. And we have with us Ms. Rajalakshmi Rao, who is the national president of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, IACC in short, the first women national president of a chamber in last 51 years. Also with me to help here, Dr. Prakash Sharma, who is the ambassador of Global Startup Ecosystem. Mr. Puri does not need any introduction. You can see here that any and every American president who has been part of the American system to strengthen relation with India, Mr. Puri has been one of the key and eminent figure to this process. And he has facilitated and helped India strengthen India-US relation to a new level. Ms. Rajalakshmi Rao is the national president of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. She is also the director of Reva Sports and was, I think, director at Tech Mahindra in the Mahindra Group, and director of Mahindra Aerospace, Aerostructure, and she has a huge organizations under her back guiding them. Without wasting any more time, I want to personalities. Today's topic that we are going to discuss is, will this strengthen or help the trade and investment relation between India and US? I want to come to Mr. Puri first to have his opening remarks on given the situation, how is the situation now in the United States, Mr. Puri, and how is it going to impact the COVID plus the recent racism protest, the series of protests that is going on? How is it both these incidents are going to impact Indo-US trade and investment?
Thanks, Akram. Thank you for having me on this very esteemed panel and a very timely topic. So, you raised two different issues. One is the COVID impact and the race relations. I look at race relations like an internal domestic issue that United States has been grappling with for the past couple of 100 years. It's like any domestic issue in India, whether it's Dalit rights, it's migrant issues, etc. Those are things that are policy related that a country has to grapple with, a long history of racial inequality. Just like in India, there are many issues you could probably argue. And United States has to come to terms with a growing population that is non-white. Around 2030 or so, this country is going to have a majority minority, where between the Hispanics and African Americans, they'll form a larger chunk than the white Americans. So a slow shift is happening. So that's on a different topic. That has obviously impacted the country, and it's shaken it to its roots. But coming to the COVID issue, I think, Akram, you raised a very important issue. So when you look at this administration, right from the beginning, they have taken a very strong stand against China, whether it is in the duties that they have levied, whether it is pushing back on the Huawei issue where the CFO, the owner's daughter, has been in jail in Canada and she's being extradited to the US. So they have taken a very muscular stand that no president has done. And in my discussions with the administration, they are very, very clear that this is going to be the main linchpin of what their policy is. They're not allowing scientists now to come in from China origin in this country because of they believe intellectual theft policy. So how does it translate to India is what really you and a lot of your viewers want to know. Well, it has a tremendous opportunity for other countries that have either intense labor, cost-effective labor economies, or high-tech economies. Because China is not just a mass labor producing, but they're also now producing high-quality stuff. So there is an opportunity for India, but India will have to do a lot of things because the main beneficiaries so far has been countries like Vietnam, Taiwan, Indonesia, Malaysia. India has not been a huge beneficiary so far.
Absolutely. That point I'll come back again. I want to take opening remarks from Rajlakshmi Rao, ma'am. Ma'am, from sitting in India, from the Indian perspective, how do you see that the COVID-19 crisis has impacted between the trade in the trade and investment relation between India and US?
There's no doubt the impact is in so many ways because of our population. You have to deal with this, especially in Mumbai and Delhi, dense population, as you know. So COVID is a difficult situation for any government, any ministry to take care. It's almost an impossible situation in cities like Mumbai and Delhi, for very important cities. Having said that, it has opened up government to understand the actual issues. I think somewhere along the line, they just thought this migrant labor we can look after. It's okay, they're being managed in the cities. That's not the right thing to do, but for whatever reason, now they're all forced to think how to really resolve this. That's the biggest issue because land and labor is such a huge component in India. And these two components have to be looked into. If we set right these things, then I think the next thing is to get investments to India. So we have to look at this situation to see how we can come out as winners and to take the best of the situation. Honestly, I find this is a great opportunity for India. Right now, it looks, oh my God, how will we manage this? But actually, the future is with India. You know, all doors are opening to us only because we are a democratic country. There's law and order, and there's transparency. And especially for US, it's like a big win-win situation. Till now, they have dealt with many situations where there's no transparency. And today, I find if we set right our MSME units and change our labor laws and land reforms and try to ease it on investment, and we have investors coming from US and other countries, I feel this is a huge opportunity, not just a small opportunity. I see India is going to be a different country in a matter of 2-3 years. It seems like, oh my God, we're going through such terrible time. This situation will turn it into huge opportunity. We'll look back and say, what were we thinking? Where were we? And where are we? After 3 years, for sure, Akram, you will say, yes, we have turned around. And in a big way. We'll be one of the top leading nations in the world. Maybe number 3. I just hope so. And I believe so.
It's a nice sense of positivity. Excellent. Mr. Puri, a very important and pertinent question. There's no doubt that American investments are moving out of China and trying to resettle in some other countries. What are these other countries who are attracting the highest level of investment, American investment, and why? What are the specific reasons that particular countries are been able to attract those?
So, Akram, I have now done about 30 investments in India Now I'm also engaged in China. I'm talking about on a personal basis. I'm working with Vietnam and several other countries. The ease of
Sorry, you got mute by
yeah.
mistake.
So what I was saying was I've been working with some of these countries. The ease of doing business in India has improved. But in order for a country to really do well, you first have to look in the mirror and see what is the reality. It is still very hard to do business in India. I'll just be very honest with you. As someone who has done business, um, the complications, or maybe comparatively, it's much harder when you compare it with China, Vietnam, Malaysia, or some of these countries, because maybe India is, like ma'am said, it's a democracy. Well, I would say to a large extent, Indonesia and Malaysia are also in some ways democracy. But when you start comparing with the ease of doing business, especially the land laws, the labor laws, as she talked about, it just is hard. And investors do not, today, investors have many choices. I understand India has a massive labor force, but Vietnam might not have 1.3 billion people. They have 97 billion. They are the largest recipient of companies that are moving. Even Chinese companies are moving into Vietnam. Japan has set up a huge fund for getting companies to move out. So I think some serious thinking has to be done within India as to what can we do. I understand that the prime minister is focused very heavily on, but I would say talk to first the entrepreneurs within India and ask them, is it easy for you to do business? I think the Indian entrepreneurs are the greatest entrepreneurs. I say that not because I'm of Indian origin, but think about the success they have despite the challenges that they face. And when they go outside to Africa, to United States and others, look at some of the top companies that are being run in this world. They are of people of Indian origin. So that's what I'm saying is, India has a unique opportunity. Companies are going to move out of China. She's absolutely right, because that is a strategic initiative by the American companies. It's not just by American companies, it's by Japanese companies, it's by Taiwan, it's by Europe, etc. Where is the destination going to be? It will be, India will get its share, but India should try to get a majority of its share. It's a democracy. It's got a large labor force. It's got an educated, it's got young demographics. Look at the average young youth of India, the young demographics of India. You can't compare to that. But when you compare it to the kind of business that other countries are getting versus India, the percentage should have been much higher. So I think that's the discussion within India that should happen.
I think I want to share a couple of points on that, but I will directly come to ma'am, Rajlakshmi Rao ma'am. Now, we are looking at from the perspective of American investment coming to India. I want to look at the other way. Now, Indian, as Mr. Puri said, that Indian entrepreneurs are one of the best entrepreneurs in the world. There is no doubt in that, because if any business can succeed in India, it can succeed in any part of the world, which also means that this situation is giving an extraordinary opportunity to Indian companies, entrepreneurs, and startups to invest abroad. Might be Indians, by investing in the United States or any other part of the world, can actually conquer the wealth of the world. Ma'am, how do you see Indian investors can see America as an opportunity?
See, till now, till a while back, they were hesitating. Indian investors are nervous to go and invest. At least in the last 2 years that I'm seeing, I find it very, it's like a pleasant surprise to me that most of the states, the governors and their economic development officers, along with the entire, top economic development people, they're coming to India and meeting, various people, both in Delhi and in Mumbai. And they're in touch with us, and they've tied, we have written agreements between that state and in India. Unlike before, it's like a prime minister to president. Those were the discussions. I've never seen that they would come to, the states will come and try to run their state and promote their business personally. for their own state. So this is a new thing that is happening already for 2 years. Maybe Indians were a little nervous to move out, but they have openly said, this is just like a one window. Just come to our economic development officer and he will look into everything. He will open all the doors for you. So we were actually thinking this year to go to US in June with the Select US around this time and go to Washington. I'm sure Mr. Puri must be attending this every year. I was going to lead that huge delegation from India. We're all registered. And we were going to almost about 5, 6, I think nearly 8 states to promote, investment in US, especially in textiles. We were so excited, North Carolina and South Carolina, which are all textile hubs and all, and they've always been in touch with us. And we were taking some investors there and to start business. And with the man-made textiles, we can go into defense and various things that if it is manufactured there, then it will be taken in US. So we were looking after such things, I mean, literally from Atlanta to Texas, Houston, Florida, and then everywhere, New York and New Jersey, the whole place, with a lot of people doing investments there. And I'm so excited about it. I don't want to stop my excitement. It's because of COVID, nobody's traveling. That's not stopping us. Actually, ease of doing business now is understood by the government, both sides. Both sides are opening doors. India is opening. So is US. In India, Invest India is opening and saying, please come. We are ready to, make it easy. And there in US, all the states are anyway were open to that. So I think both ways. And now the best thing is we have a wonderful person besides Prime Minister leading it. We have MSME. You all must have heard about Mr. Nitin Gadkari. Even this morning, he was talking about expanding everything on MSME, making it easy. And they have increased, they changed the definitions to make it easy. And they're giving cluster spaces across the country. So people, Mr. Puri, anybody wants to come to India and tell me, we are starting work tomorrow. We will give land and environmental clearances, which were very difficult. And labor reforms have come in way. And all the taxation rules and everything which was supposed to be stuck up, everything is, extended. The dates are extended, years are extended. And to make it ease of business, really, truly ease of business between both the countries. And I really feel, we're just like fumbling around now to see how to fit in and where to fit in. And when we asked Invest India, who are these people who are coming to India? He said, you just think of anywhere you look around, whichever area you're looking at. That's the area people are coming from US and other countries to invest in India. The promises have already started at that level. So it'll all percolate. It's a matter of time.
Right. Mr. Puri, your view on this, that can or should Indian businesses look at this as an opportunity to invest in other countries also?
Akram, I think you're making a very important point, and which I think ma'am also made. So one of the big, you talked about companies moving out of China. Right. Now, the big thing that is happening right now, and it's happening where it's not gotten a lot of press, is China is sitting on a lot of foreign exchange reserves. And with COVID happening, the valuations, as with the stock market going down, of companies in the US and around the world, and have taken a huge hit. So what the Chinese companies are doing is they're buying up an incredible amount of companies in the US. Now the US government has stepped up, just like India did when China bought in, I think, HDFC, a small portion of HDFC. Right. And I think India set up some rules and regulations. I think this is a unique opportunity because Indians buying into American companies, which are at a very serious discounted prices today, will not face as much resistance from the lawmakers in the US. And I would say that because now what is happening is this, like you have Make in India, this administration wants, so let's take pharmaceuticals. This administration is going to already has written about $2 billion. We are working with them in setting up API manufacturing in this country. So if you had Indian companies with some local partners this would be a unique opportunity where, we have spent $5 trillion already for the stimulus. So they're writing huge amounts of checks for companies who want to come in and set up API manufacturing. There's also semiconductors. They're writing huge checks. So I would say this, if you have some industries that want to come in, this is probably because of circumstances, discounted prices because of COVID, this administration's desire to make manufacturing and other intellectual property things, they want alternatives to China supply chains. So if you've got companies, there will probably never be as good a time because there is money available and there's opportunity available right now.
Excellent point. I think from two eminent panelists or experts we have, I think the clear message to our policymaker that it goes is like that: let our states invite as many FDI as possible, but can the central government also plan or facilitate or support some big Indian companies to invest abroad? Because the pro-Indian sentiment, the positivity with Indian investors in any part of the world is extremely positive now, extremely high. So I think this can be also another opportunity for Indian industries or Indian companies to make a good amount of investment abroad and maybe acquire or joint venture or partner with some brilliant companies in America, in Asia and other part of the world. Mr. Puri, I want to come to you again with another very important question, because you said that you have brought 25 FDIs or foreign companies to invest in India. How challenging or positive it was? What was your experience? What has been your experience on that? What specific reforms would you like to recommend so that we can expedite the process of getting more FDI, especially in context of America, but also in context of any other country?
So Akram, I'll tell you the positive, and I think the positive greatly outweighs the negative. The positive is the talent. The talent in this country is incredible. I think the whole world knows about Indian talent. I'm looking at young people like you, ma'am, and others. It's incredible the amount of talent that exists and the energy of the youth. Look at you, a young person who is driving this. The youth is incredible. So I think that's the positive that is happening. And people want to do entrepreneurial, innovative things. The innovation is alive and kicking in this country. So that's what I have found, that there are some, and also you can't argue with the domestic market. It's a 1.3 billion huge market. So if you got any kind of product, whether it's in food, whether it is in pharmaceutical, whether it's in technology, there's a market for it, not just in tier 1, tier 2, but tier 3 cities, which are really coming up. And that's where the growth is coming. So I would say that a great domestic market, a great workforce, innovative spirit of people, and a government that is pro-business, at least to a large extent. Now, the challenges are some institutional challenges, and ma'am has talked about that they are overcoming it. And, a Titanic can't shift overnight. So you have a bureaucracy that has been there for 60, 70 years that cannot shift overnight. And so those become some challenges because, when I'll give you an example. I have a manufacturing facility in Mysore. So in order for us to subdivide it, it's our property. Sometimes it takes the bureaucracy a year. And it's my property. Generally, in the United States, there would not be a question of how to do some of these things. Now, I understand that you have protections that are built in to protect people who might have challenges or things like that. But it causes some kind of stumbling of those things. And I'm saying these are some institutional bureaucracies that will take some time. So again, I talk about land reform, ma'am talk about labor reform. Those would be some of the things that can be done where comparatively those are easier with others. But as I said, the positives, Akram, are much more than potential maybe challenges, Akram.
Thank you. Ms. Rao, your any points you'd like to add on the front?
That because look at the investment that has come into Jio. Look at the amount of like how Facebook and Silver Lake, partners and General Atlantic, they all come in. so much investment into Geo. And we're looking at Apple might be just coming in too. It's just making inroads. The fact that investments are coming shows trust in our leadership. If our political leadership is not stable, people would be nervous to come in. We have leadership which is very strong. Fortunately, Prime Minister is holding the entire country together on sentiment of looking after everybody's lives first and then livelihood. Right or wrong, it's different. At least he's united the entire country on this sentiment. So people are believing in their Prime Minister. And transparency is something which is coming in. The fact that MSME doors have opened up in India, that's what we really need. Although large investments are welcome, in pharma, definitely large investments have to come to India because we have all the Ayurvedic products and the plants and everything that goes into pharma. And most of the stuff that goes, the generic stuff goes into pharma in US, it's all from India. Almost 60-70% comes from India. So where else can they go? And as far as textiles is concerned, they're going to have some textile park and pharma parks in 3 states. Government is planning to set up to do ease of business. They're investing some thousands of crores in these so that people can just set up and the land and environmental, all those clearances will be given so people can do business out of that and they can just come and park themselves and do it. They don't have to run around. The entire environment is absolutely conducive to this. So when we have 1.3 billion people, as he said, young people with energy and wanting to work and they need jobs. And we are also the consumers. Where else will they sell even across the world? Even if they make also, where else will they sell it to? It will come to India. If it is made in India itself, it is the best. Why not? It's like a win-win situation for India right now. Win-win in every sense. As I said, it looks very far, but it's not that far. We're just at that turning point. Like few months, you just start seeing people will just walk into different MSMEs because the moment that definition of MSME is changed and all the benefits are being given, today only Mr. Gadkari said 15% they will invest in MSME, government. And 15% they're going to open, you can open it at the stock exchange for MSMEs to get 15% outside. I mean, did you ever think this can happen? I mean, things like this, it's like they're thinking out of box.
Right.
So I find very positive this ease of business. It's really getting into that.
It can help.
Yeah.
Right. Mr. Puri, I want to come to this very important aspect of it now. Dr. Sharma, you can also come in, and if you would like to share something, you're most welcome. The point is that every country is coming up with a huge stimulus package. United States, $2 to $3 trillion. Any country, China, though it hasn't announced anything, India similarly has 20 lakh crore, 10 or 11% of the GDP. Almost 80 to 90% of the countries have come up with the 10 to 11% of the GDP stimulus package to the industry. Germany, I think, is the only country which has come up with a stimulus package of almost 60% of the GDP. Like, it is the only country which is back to normal with massive amount of stimulus package, 60%, unimaginable. Do you think that some part of this stimulus package can be used, especially in the context of attracting FDI and also facilitating Indian FDI to go abroad? Because when China was investing in India, it was primarily being thought that it's the Chinese government money coming to India. Similarly, can India kind of facilitate a portion of it, or what more innovative approach can India adopt to facilitate both way, two-way trade?
Akram, I think that's a good question.
Now to unmute him.
Sorry.
Unmute him. He can't.
He can speak. Yeah, please. Yeah, Mr. Puri.
Oh, okay. Akram, I think you asked a very good question, and I think ma'am kind of addressed that. So when you start because at least in the United States, the heart of our country is the small medium-sized businesses. 90% of the employment in the United States comes from the growth in the small business. As you call it, the MSME sector, we call it the small business sector. And if the small business sector in this country doesn't grow, it's only if you go back 10 years ago, Facebook was a very small company. 15 years ago, Google was a very small company. I mean, all these companies that you're seeing, Zoom, till 5 years ago was, which we are using right now, well, maybe 2 years ago was a very small company. So the question becomes is, what do you do to create those kinds of companies that can have global growth? And so I think she's talked about some policies, and I absolutely think that India needs to have policies that will attract investment. I strongly believe that a great domestic marketplace is attractive to people, but encouraging your small businesses with policies that are pro growth and pro exports, I think is very, very important. I look at, people always talk about pharma and technology. I just think there is going to be several other sectors that India has probably not looked at as much. So when you come to the United States, Akram, I'll take you to, in DC, ma'am is coming to, come to Whole Foods, come to Costco. You'll see organic food, you'll see ashwagandha, you'll see turmeric, you go to Starbucks, it's all those things. This is the time for India to really capture. It'll be bigger than pharmaceutical, because the wave of organic in Europe and Western world, organic, natural, vegan, everything is plant-based, is moving. It is almost a $200 billion industry. And I have personally invested in it because of my belief in wellness. Akram, as you grow older, you don't want to live longer, you want to live well. So that's what America say. We are an aging society. You are a young society. So what do aging people want to do? We don't want to lose our memory. So we take things that will help us keep our memory. We don't want to lose our bones. A lot of this is coming from, she talked of Ayurveda, etc. So think about non-traditional. IT is not going to be as big a growth factor in the future, because I'm a technologist. I can tell you that today you don't need to code so much things. All these apps are very, very easy to do. And the volumes of labor that you needed before is going to be like 10%, especially with machine learning and things of that nature. India will have to find new, like food, defense. India should have been a huge defense market with its electronics expertise, its cyber expertise. So find greenfield opportunities, and there are so many. I mean, the Bangladeshi textile sector today is bigger than the Indian textile sector. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I mean, the Bangladesh has done a great job, and kudos to them. And I think India can also do so many other non-traditional things. And I think that's where the focus should be, Akram.
Amazing. Ms. Rao, would you like to add on this perspective?
Defense sector. We have opened defense sector for the first time. FDI can come into defense sector, and now private partnerships are allowed. Private companies can do something in defense, and they've opened up so many areas. I mean, that opens huge business between both our countries. If we can get into defense in our companies, we have so many. They were stuck. They were unable to go into that area because they were not allowed. But now that that is also opened up, I think it's almost the whole world is at your feet. Honestly, I just I honestly feel it's just like they're all bubbling. Let us just correct our systems a little bit and get our bureaucracy to understand where the success lies, not just their positions, but they have to prove that whatever that is government has decided, now they have to ensure that actually reaches people. That's very important. Earlier, maybe people kept quiet. Now nobody's going to keep quiet because ministers are coming and telling every day on webinars. I mean, US government, we had from US Embassy number 2, 3, 4, they were all on webinars with our members to explain to us any investment in US, any issues you have, we are here to help you. And I'm just saying it's an open arm invitations from everywhere. And if our government is showing this kind of strength, I mean, Ayurveda is going to go big way. And organic foods are going to go into a big way. A lot of investment is coming to US. I know it's a huge multi-billion-dollar business that is coming. coming from India. People are investing in US. So, I mean, this is what I'm saying. I mean, we don't know that these are happening, but they're already happening. Already happened also. And I feel it's sky's the limit. I mean, there's so many areas and spaces that I can talk about because we've been in touch with Invest India and also the government, both ways. And so I just feel, I mean, people, in fact, they were telling us investments are coming to India in such a manner. 5 states chief ministers are calling and saying they're all vying for it. We want it for our state. CMs, not just anybody. They want to show that they're getting this investment. They're all saying we want, first time. They're actually asking which are these investments we want it here. Somebody wanted tannery in Germany. They were shifting, and you quickly grabbed it and took it to Kanpur because they have the facilities there. So I'm just saying, people are coming. It's just that it doesn't come into newspapers because it's already being done. Who are interested, they can just approach Invest India or the state itself. And these areas, they are coming in.
The final question that I am.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Akram, can I add?
Yes, please. That is the question that I
Yeah. So, apart from this FDI investments, right now what I'm doing with Passion Framework is introducing a lot of research collaboration. So there are a lot of seniors from India who have started actually from the industry itself. Usually what we find is PhDs is only done by academicians who want to pursue some growth in their career. But right now we have seen a very good, in fact, enthusiasm in all the seniors, almost at the director level, CXO level, where they are actually collaborating with on various research topics. And also I got a similar response from USA. So we are doing a lot of information exchange where together from India and USA or any country, they collaborate on a research topic and then it gets spinned off as a startup. So this is something which eventually can be an attractive opportunity, for cross investments.
Excellent, super. Final question that I want to come up with, because Mr. Puri doesn't speak much and he's always to the point. And the most important question is that I think the startup and MSMEs you addressed partly. I mean, you addressed MSME, but I wanted to ask this question together: startup and MSMEs. Imagine the kind of or amount of investment Jio attracted. If that money had gone to maybe 5,000 or 20,000 Indian startups, the amount of employment that money would have created, and it could have catapulted the India's or has become or would have become the engine of India's economic growth today. Can we develop an ecosystem, or do you think that a system can be developed where like $1 trillion or multi-billion-dollar such investment package can come and invest at a time to thousands of such startups?
So, Akram, I'll give you a very honest feedback because of, I've done, I don't know, maybe 30 plus investments in India. So I think Facebook's investment and General Atlantic's investment in Jio, I think it's a great validation for the Indian ecosystem, that they believe that the digital ecosystem, whether it's shopping, movies, etc., is alive and well. So I would say that's a great validation, because through Jio, you're going to see a lot of other startups come into that entire ecosystem, because, a telecom network also springs about a lot of different things that will go around it, whether it's in online education, etc. But talking about, I think you raised a very good point. There should be, so let's look at the IT sector in India. How come we have the largest IT sector, one of the largest IT sectors in the world, but we don't have a Microsoft or a Google or other companies? We have service providers. We have people who do labor arbitrage, but we don't have people who have there is no Google that has come out. Look at a country like Israel, a small country. Do you know how many innovative companies that have come out that have been sold for multi-billion in cyber, in autonomous vehicles, in telecom, etc.? So we have to have a culture of innovation, but a culture of innovation that protects intellectual property, that says to these larger companies that make sure you don't steal the innovation and IP of these younger companies. The younger companies, when they go in to present to partner with these larger companies, you know what those larger companies in some cases do? They have their staff sitting there and they're copying those ideas. That's not the right thing, because you're killing innovation in these folks. And we have to give some of these startups time. Startups take time and money. That is the fuel for them. How do we get that to them? That's the key, Akram. And that's, I think, the challenge that India has to figure out. In the United States, we have a tremendous, there's more money than you can think about. If you have an idea, you can raise $3, $5, $4, $10 million easily. You need to have that kind of a setup in India.
Absolutely. That's the point I also wanted to mention. Ms. Rao, ma'am, your view on this, that how do we increase FDI into our startups? Because startups become the engine of growth, employment, and then innovation.
Unfortunately, a lot of startups actually started last year, the last 2 years. With this COVID crisis, they've sort of, most of them wound up. It's very sad. They were really looking forward for doing great business. Some of them are successful, but almost, I think 40% have had to, I'm sure, winding up. But to think that some investment should come into startups alone, it will take time, because I think people want to invest. But first, the basic infrastructure has to give, better facilities for startups also. But I do feel this entire new definition MSME will actually give a lot of help to startups. Lot of help. It's all about that. I'm very excited about MSME change in our country. And I'm so glad that every aspect is being looked at and they're trying to rectify very quickly. Earlier, it used to take years to rectify anything. Here, they're rectifying every month. That means they're really onto that case. I do feel even all startups will find benefit. As I said, government will put in 15% as investment, and they will give a loan people. And I mean, when did you think of this? So why can't startups really flourish? If they're good, they should flourish.
Thank you. I think viewers, a very important and special and nice discussion on how can India attract a large portion of the FDI moving from American FDI moving from China to other countries. Now, this PolicyTimes in partnership with US Impact and Auto Nebula Passion Framework. So we thought that we will come up with a series of such discussions to facilitate and promote some startups, entrepreneurs to come up with innovative ideas, to launch their products, to market their products, to promote their products, not only in India, but also across the world, because that's how I think we can do. And in our inaugural or launching session, we had two eminent personalities who can guide us. With this, I would like to take your closing remarks, a lot of healthy and enriching discussions, closing remarks, that what lessons should Indian entrepreneurs to take from here, so that from here, post-COVID, there is a post-COVID era, and maybe we will live with COVID for lifetime. This will be just like another influenza or another disease. Maybe some solutions will come. But what can make India a real entrepreneur hub, and not only to attract investments, but also Indian entrepreneurs also become leader and driver of global growth? Mr. Puri.
Akram, again, thanks for having me on this session. It's been very, very informative. The questions you asked were very good, and listening to ma'am was very, very helpful. I think India is at an inflection point where there's always a time in every country, every company, every individual's destiny where the next steps you take are going to leave an imprint. The world order, because of this, is changing because of geopolitical issues between China, the rest of the world, COVID, etc. I think the Indian entrepreneur is ready. It has never been more ready. Now the question is, where will they go? What tools and what opportunities will they have? You also have a reality, Akram, that you have to face, that India now has to deal with the post-COVID high unemployment. and there will be a lot of deficit spending that is staring at India. That's just a fact that India has to deal with. Now, how do you deal with that? You look at the globe as one. I think the post-COVID world, Akram, is very, very different. You're going to look at places where when you go to planes, you have people that are, your air hostesses are sitting in PPE kits and others. When I look at that, I see an opportunity for Indian entrepreneurs. So what can they do, whether it is in pharma, in terms of bacterial solutions, in terms of other solutions, etc. What can they do in terms of contact tracing and all kinds of things that are happening? Because this is not going to be the only thing. In winter, they're predicting the second wave of this coming and many other things that will be coming. So I would say the Indian entrepreneur now needs to start thinking globally. Domestic is a big market, but you are going to also, as I said, see a shrinking of the economy. That is just a fact. And that's not just for India, it's across the board. In the United States, we have almost 30 million people on unemployment, but we are pumping so much money. $5 trillion has been pumped in. So that will start seeing some results. But what I'm saying is there are new kinds of opportunities when people are looking at how do I boost my immune system. That's where Indian innovation, whether it's Ayurveda, should come in. And this is not India alone. Think of the world as your framework and what can you do, buy companies, even small companies around the world, and come up with solutions from that. Would be my 2 cents to add to this.
Brilliant. Ms. Rao, ma'am, your final comment.
I believe our Prime Minister is leading with a great vision, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and I think that is what is going to be the future. And we are going to reinvent, and we're going to settle our COVID issues in the next few months. I think as far as economy is concerned, it will take time to revive. The rest of the world is also in the same position. And but we are very positive because we have a lot of young population who are very energetic, very dynamic, positive, and they'll put India back in a higher pedestal, taking opportunities, whether it's startups or other MSMEs. As Mr. Puri said, everything is an opportunity today. These opportunities were never thought of earlier. Imagine today we don't have to go for PP masks, we can actually export. Suddenly people have just started making our textile industry. We are like flooded with it. We never used to always import from China. Now we are doing it ourselves. Suddenly manufacturers have started making them. So a lot of things are made in India. Now the feeling of India made in India is also come as a very important facet of Indians. Everybody wants to feel, we want to make it in India, why not? It's only because we were not making it easy and cheaper compared to China, everything was going there. Because our laws were not in tune with people of MSMEs. Now they're getting in tune and they're supporting all these people. We will manufacture better than everybody else and with transparency. So that's where we will win. The whole world, not just America, the whole world will look at us as the destination because of who we are. Indians have that soul, and we have the Prime Minister who's leading with that soul connect. I'm not just, supporting any particular party, but I'm just saying how India today is under this governance.
Thank you. Dr. Sharma, would you like to add anything to conclude the session?
Yeah, like we are putting great efforts of the industry academic NGO interfaces and trying to have a kind of a spin-off through combinator of people. So I think with investments and what Madam has said, that there's going to be a change in the MSME way of investments. So I think things seem to be more positive as far as Indian startup context is concerned, as well as small industries.
Excellent. So thank you so much, Mr. Sanjay Puri. Thank you so much, Ms. Rajlakshmi Rao, ma'am, for being with us on this show. viewers some excellent learning from two of our eminent experts. It's very clear that we have to. So this brings an opportunity. Policy Times has never grown the way it has grown last 2 months. And just being digital, we have been, and people were sitting home mostly, we have been able to connect with who is who of most and many of the sectors. And believe me, this we have grown tremendously. So everything that comes to us, how do we make ourselves ready to accept that? Because we have to survive, we have to thrive, we have to grow. So whatever situation comes, how do we adapt ourselves to that situation, and how do we grow is all makes an entrepreneur unique and different. So with this, I would like to conclude with today's session. Thank you so much, Mr. Puri and Ms. Rao, for being with
Thank
us.
you, Akram. Thank you,
Thank
Sanjay.
you. Thank you.
Thanks.